Oh, we did a 2-minute practice again. This was a practice where we picked a scale and an instrument and just take 2 minutes at a time and see how it goes. Play that scale, play that instrument. Let's see how it went with me, Rob Stenzinger, and Jerzy in a second on the 2-minute practice podcast. Welcome to the 2-minute practice podcast.
Here, the hosts of the Lean Into Art podcast explore and encourage you to join us in trying all kinds of different creative activities that help us practice things related to making our art, exploring, growing in our business practice, and even trying things for a healthy lifestyle.
We'll talk about what we practiced recently, things we saw in the community, and then we highlight a new idea for us all to practice next.
2 minutes is a findable amount of time to try things. I'm Jerzy Droz, cartoonist and teaching artist.
I'm Rob Stenzinger, UX designer, interactive maker, and teaching artist.
All right. We are in the 2-minute practice once again. Good to see you, Rob.
Well, good to see you, Jerzy.
So you already told us what we're doing, what it was about. We were making scales on our music instrument of our choice. Let me guess what you were using.
Well, you're assuming I actually practiced. I said I picked an instrument and I picked a scale. No, I actually practiced. I'm a guitarist who plays by ear still. Overall, it's I have a weird relationship with music theory and that whole deal. So it's an interesting thing to formalize, which I appreciate and can get into. But yeah, many years of not taking that instrument in a traditional formal way.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's a theme between the two of us too, right? Is the very self-taught, non-traditional approaches to this stuff, and yet we've managed to make a lot of cool stuff with the practices that we made. And I think that's another thing to like highlight on this project of the 2-minute practices. You don't have to have a formal approach to practice, right? You can, you don't have to. So, but so you added a bit of formality. Oh, sorry. Rob.
Added a bit of formality. So like, well, I think we said that instead of just, picking an instrument and making noise, which is joyful and great, hit a timer, see what comes out, to just go that little extra stretch, and which can be nourishing or frustrating or something, but it's different than what we practiced before, which is often what we try to do. To keep it interesting. The practice of practicing is fun to talk about and think about, but also the specific practices, we want them to affect us somehow, right? Even though we say, well, it's not about, well, I'm going to practice, I'm going to make a song, and then I'm going to sell the song and what have you, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're somewhere in between those poles, right? That's how I feel about this.
Totally, because as we've discovered, we're kind of implicitly project hunters and habitual stuff makers with the idea of making things into products. It's so baked into our biases, but that pressure, this is a great way to say, well, all right, 2 minutes at a time, and there's not like, what could you expect out of yourself, really? So you're at least playing with the idea of changing perspective to say it doesn't have to lead anywhere other than you get to feel what it's like to do the thing.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. How did it feel for you, Rob? How did it go?
Let's see. I made a little sticky note of it was slow at first, right? Because we were doing 2-minute practice on like a 2-week cycle nowadays, and it's the first week almost went by before I really chose it. I would see this on my to-do list, and I would like balk and say like, I don't know what scale to pick. Guess I'm not doing this right now, right? And so I actually dug through. On the video podcast, you can kind of see a bunch of books piled up on my Kawai K4 keyboard back there. And because I have dabbled with studying theory and trying to understand the instrument that is guitar. I've even made a video game out of learning the notes on the fretboard, which is actually how I learned the notes on the fretboard, was making the game, which came many years after starting playing guitar. And I looked through my books and I was like, I'm not finding anything. I guess, all right. So then next time I just did a quick Google search, and I'm kind of adjacent to the theory, and I knew like maybe I want to be like D minor or E minor, because I'm like, I love metal, and D minor and E minor are quite metal. So I have learned over the years. I couldn't now give you a speech on why, but I know if that's true. So once I had that, then I started, noodling and playing around, and then I racked up, at least 10 practices. So total, but the first couple were like, spent trying to pick the scale. So, and I could demo an hour later what I picked. What do you think?
Sure. Let's hear it.
So, you can stay on screen with me if you like, but
I want to see the whole image. I want to see all of the guitar.
Okay. So, yeah, I have different camera angles here too. I don't have like, I'm a Twitch streamer with the perfect guitar angle to see the fingering and stuff, but like I think this other position's a little better. So I will go to, how about there?
Oh, sweet.
All right. Okay, so E minor harmonic. This is I printed this off of a web search that I found on Fender.com. Right. So Fender.com, creator makers of guitars. They made the first, 2 guitars I bought were Fender, HM Strats, actually, heavy metal Strats. So I don't know.
Stratocaster.
Blame it on. Yeah. Yep. So let's say one quirky thing about this diagram is how, so you notice it's got, so the dots for the, your relative fret positioning, and it numbers the frets where, 0 through 5. So open position, that means I don't have to actually like the bottom where it says 0, that's just playing the string. That's not actually, so like this is 0. That's just hitting E. Anyway.
Okay.
So notice the notation is a little quirky. That took me a little bit to get through, because notice how like 2 things are crammed really close, 0 and 1.
Mm-hmm.
They're not this equal positioning, so that took, I don't know, a little bit of wrapping my head around. But let's say, all right, so I played this on the 0. So you go do re mi. There you go, do re mi fa sol la ti do. That's it. But then I'm like, well, how do we have some fun with this? So moving it up to the 12th fret, this is the same thing. All the notes repeat, right? So that's why Guitar Fretter, actually, the game, guitarfretter.com, if you're curious, just actually goes to the 12th fret in this version. So, but then you can continue on, right? So that's continuing up the whole, continuing the scale, right? So it's the same pattern, but I moved it up to the 12th, right?
So you're moving horizontally across the neck rather than going up the neck.
Yeah. So this is where the diagram teaches down here, right?
Yeah.
But up here, it's more fun. Then you can play around. And that's where all the rest of the practices went. Anyway, that was what I did.
So it sounds like if I'm characterizing this properly, and I want your input on this, Rob. I'm hearing that there was an initial bit of friction at the beginning as you sort of wrapped your head around what you asked yourself to do in the practice, but once you got there, it became a playful experience.
Because so I mentioned that I've practiced guitar a long time, and I can do things. I'm okay at it, but I'm not great to collaborate with on guitar because I don't have enough theory to have a common language to navigate constructive conversations to, compose stuff, whatever. But then again, I've had successful collaborations here and there with very patient folks. And, but yeah, so I was able to take, skills of being able to like pick, and speed pick, but now applied to an actual scale where I'm not going into like chromatic or enharmonic things, right? I think I used that second word, right? I don't know.
You're still operating at an expert level compared to where I stand. Like I look at that and it really does look like the magic trick that I know it looks like when I do certain things with my illustrations. So,
well, that's cool, fun. So it was a fun focus. It was like saying, hey, take all that whatever you do, make noise fun, to make happy metal fun noise, and actually channel it at a scale like you have before, but often, wander away from. So anyway, but so it was building on a practice. It was like, it's like if someone said, well, hey, Jerzy, instead of drawing someone who is laughing at a joke, draw someone who is then jumping over a hurdle in a track race, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. No, yeah, I could see how. Yeah, I a few years ago I went to my first life drawing class in might be ever. I think I did some life drawing back early college years, but and it was weird to go back to that formal space of we're just trying to capture contours, and I'm remembering language from my early art classes and applying the intuitive skill that I've developed through lots of years of heuristic practice and training, and applying that to a formal setting. It did make it seem more playful and joyful, and I didn't feel as beholden to any kind of outcome. Right.
Wow.
So,
yeah, that's kind of what it felt like too for this practice for me. It was free of outcome because of it is truly just 2 minutes and see what happens. Yeah. But then it wasn't. It was building on some prior practice skills. So, but that's how mine went. And I'm really curious, how did yours practice go? Did you make some noise?
I did, and mine. I encountered a similar friction in that I don't even know enough about scales to name a scale, right? So I was like, what am I know do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, but I don't know the difference between an F sharp and E minor. I haven't applied myself to a degree to where I have that knowledge instinctively or intuitively or obviously. However, my wife's grandparents bequeathed her a piano. And so we have a piano in our house now. And there it is sitting in our library where it's asking to be played, So the second week I opened it up and there were all of these 1930s how to play piano books that came with the piano. And so I opened them up and I'm like, okay, what am I learning here? I'm just going to go to the beginning of one of the beginner's books and just say where do you put your fingers? And so what I did practice was maybe not as formal of a scale, but what I did practice was learning how to use my left and right hand at the same time on the piano keys, which totally threw me off the horse the first time I tried it, where it was wait a minute, so I'm going to go backwards with my left hand and forwards with my right hand, or in other words, they move away from each other as they do different chords and key groupings. I don't even know the language for it, but I did sit down and follow the notes very slowly. I think I got through maybe one progression of notes per 2-minute practice. Cause I'm like looking down the keys, looking up at the book, looking down the keys, looking up at the book. But
so did you put your hands on the piano keyboard where it's like your two thumbs are, like one thumb they're both on white keys, but then next to your right thumb is a black key, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that
one.
Yeah. Right thumb is on C.
Yep. Middle C. And then, my left thumb was on C on the other end of the piano. So I practiced that. And it was by the third time, I felt like, okay, this is feeling like it's a skill that I can acquire. I still don't have it, but the memory of doing it a couple times in a row has primed me for, and of course life experience has primed me for this as well, is that I know if I just do this all the time, I'll do it. Now, what did that feel like? And I brought this observation to one of my live streams this week, is that I think I've said on this podcast and other ones that we've done together, this idea of like, I really want a hobby. I want a hobby. And I didn't know what I meant when I said that. I just know that I want to do something that isn't directly related to making art products or teaching work, right? And I didn't think about it beyond that. I just know that there's goodness in that word hobby. And then I thought about like what my relationship with that word is since I was a young person. I always thought a hobby was something you do when you have nothing else to do, right? It's like, oh, I got nothing else to do. I'm going to put together a puzzle. I got nothing else to do. I'm going to put together a boat in a bottle, I guess. Like I saw adults with hobbies and I saw it as, oh, this is a passing the time activity. No. When I was doing that stuff on the piano, it made me realize that hobbies enrich your life, right? By giving you experiences of engaging with creativity in ways where there are no stakes, right? Nobody was standing over my shoulder going like, oh, too bad, you took too long on those scales, right? It was just like I got to do them, and I had the 2-minute thing telling me it's okay, you're gonna be done soon. And it gave me permission to enjoy it, right? So while I don't have much to show for the 2-minute practice in terms of skill acquisition, I have perspective acquisition that I got out of engaging with. I think it was 4 times I did it this week.
Wow. I like that distinction. Perspective acquisition. It's a pretty powerful couple of words, word pairing there. And it is valuable in its own own measure, because how do you get new perspective except for finding new situations to put yourself in that now cause you to need to adjust? That's cool.
I guess that's a way of rephrasing it, right? Because I had the choice. I could have said, well, I choose not to adjust. This is for people who have musical talent and not for me, right? But I don't give myself permission to say that, right? Because like I get really bristly when people say, oh, you're so talented. I'm like, well, maybe. But also, I worked my butt off too. Let's not take that away. Thank you very much.
So jumping around in the whole continuum of like, high skill proficiency to low skill proficiency, right? Mm-hmm. That's a pretty quick change of perspective.
Yeah.
But
so
some of that, go ahead.
If I were to chart what's been happening to me, in a broad sense through engaging with these 2-minute practices, is that it has given me a bi-monthly or bi-weekly check-in to get accustomed to beginner's mindset. I know that not all the practices have been that for me, because there have been some practices where I've really excelled and been like, oh gosh, this is like breathing. It's so easy for me to do. But there are other ones where I feel like I'm thrown into this deep end, and I'm learning to really enjoy the intuitive space of student mindset, of just trust the process, go through the thing. It's okay if you don't know what you're doing right now. It's going to look and sound terrible right now, and it's supposed to. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, and then I had, because, practice long time, and I have some kind of comfort and fluency with guitar. I felt the other side, like you described when we do certain practices where you hit your strengths, and it's like you have the freedom to play and run, and to not have a job for those strengths. It's saying you've set them free, and they get to do stuff, and that can be a breath of fresh air. It can be a totally new perspective, because when you have the strengths always paired with jobs, then that's more limiting and probably pretty useful and necessary.
Yeah.
But also
in that regard, you're also, I feel like you're pointing towards experiential benefit of doing the thing rather than the product benefit of doing the thing. Which is a good reminder to us that we should be using tools and techniques that actually are fun for us to do and that we don't have to fight with.
Although we have fun with them.
We totally have. Yeah, no, for sure. But I'm just saying that, yes, there's that benefit too of doing this, even if you're doing 2-minute practices where your skill is really well met to the practice. Well, what am I gaining out of this? Well, maybe you're gaining a sense that it's a pleasure to do it. This is something that I hear a lot of artists say to younger artists who are like, well, what if I don't feel like doing it that any given day? What if I'm not super successful at this thing? What if they imagine all of these dark scenarios that can cross your path when you go off to do art in whatever way you do it. And they say, well, I've heard enough artists say this that I've grabbed onto. I'm like, I'm holding that. I'm going to use it. Remember why you started doing it. When you get attracted to art as a young person, is because you love doing it. You didn't no 11-year-old's like, I could make a buck off of this, right? Well, maybe some are.
Well, some are.
Yeah,
for
some
sure.
are. But like when I was 11 and I decided that fateful moment, I was like, this is all I care about from now until doomsday is comics. It was because they're so cool and I love doing it. It's not that, oh, and the money is fantastic. I didn't even know. How could I know? I was 11, So anyway, reconnecting with the love of doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Reconnect with why you're doing it. And that, okay. So how interesting. Like this is good prompt territory that we should come back to after a quick break.
Yes. Let's take a break and then we'll come back and talk about, what we're going to do next with our practice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, let me see. Where is my copy? If this project is helping you think and do useful creative work, a great way to help the show is to support us on Patreon, patreon.com/leanintoart or leanintoart.com/Patreon. Both will get you there. And another great way you can help the show is buy the products we make. And the thing that I make that I hope you will buy is Science Comics Rockets, which is the comics documentary about the history and science of rockets as told by the animals who participated in rocket history. And you'll learn how bears and chimps helped us to understand the effects of G-force, how rats helped advertise fireworks manufacturers, and how one woman saved the American side of the space race with some math and chemistry. And you can find an 8-page preview at sciencecomicsrockets.com, and it's also available at bookstores everywhere. Hey, Rob, what do you got?
Hey, well, I have, let's say, opportunities to switch my screen there. And I just want to point you to my blog, which is interactive-storyteller.com. I'm currently in the middle of a challenge where I'm posting every day, and there's all kinds of things related to creativity and collaboration, user experience, and sometimes just reflection on the process of making stuff. So again, my blog is at interactive-storyteller.com.
All right. Every day. Posting every day since January.
Yes.
That's a lot of posts.
True. It is. We're at 83-ish or so right now in a row.
Everybody, that's a daily visit from Rob. Think about that. Interactive-storyteller.com. Okay. So let's choose our next practice.
Is there a practice that has that territory of remember why you're doing this? Is there, or we can go opposite. So there's food for thought. So if we reflexively are like, this is punishing, but no, it's nourishing. Or, feels good. Do you have a thing?
Well, I'm immediately thinking of, and I feel like this might have been a practice we've already done, but those influence boards.
Oh, right.
Did we do
Have we
that
done?
already? We've done this enough that I've lost track of
We've
what
done
we
an
have done.
influence brainstorm.
Okay.
Yep. And uh, but that's, like we've done lots of different things in similar category. So in what way are you thinking of? Like maybe there's a way to dive another step into influence.
What when you mentioned like the remember why we do it, like what popped into my head was this idea of making a collage of visual images that caused me aesthetic arrest. In other words, images that like I always go back to in my head, say like I remember looking at that drawing for the longest time. Now, what would be the auditory version of that, right? Would you be able to put together like a 1 minute scratch track of like here's like a whole bunch of things that like move me, right? I'm trying to think of any visual or audio or kinesthetic art. Could you put together a 1 minute? Like, could you do that 2 minutes at a time? Yes, you could. You could do it cumulatively, right? You would have like, a cumulative file.
Yes, that is definitely one of our kinds of practices where they're not standalone sessions. It's just you collect your sessions in one space.
Mm-hmm.
So that is cool. And you could have, audio file you keep tacking onto, or you could have a physical or virtual page where you're gathering stuff. So a natural thing could be even photo collage for that. Just make it easy to take the note. This isn't about making a some kind of permanent art installation of the the thing that inspired you. So it's just remembering and connecting with that memory.
And for me, if I were to do this, it sounds like you're kind of on board with this idea, Rob.
Yeah, I'm more than kind of.
Okay. I was just trying to leave some squishy space for you to back out.
Yeah, thanks.
Like for me, one of the things I would probably like tell myself to do it as a constraint is to say, do not try to tell the story before the object is finished. Like for me, I would be making a collage. I'm gonna make a digital collage by doing Google image searches for books that I know that really moved me. I'm gonna use screen grab a piece of it, drop it into a layered PSD file or something. But I want it to be, the 2 minutes will be urgent capture of grab, put, and then reconvene here to pick apart what I did and why. Why do you think you put that image there and not something else?
Nice. And then, so yeah, save the reflection for getting together. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, I mean, and folks can reflect along with us when we follow up with this practice next time.
Okay, cool.
There's always space. Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, I don't want I know for me, I'm going to slow myself down trying to like tell a rich story around it. And I know that I'll do a much more efficient job if I just grab and then reflect on it afterwards.
So create a visual or audio collection of the stuff that inspires you to do what you do.
Yes. The stuff that makes when you hear or see it, you say, that's what I want to do. That's why I get out of bed. Whatever that did to me is what I want to do. I want to make other people feel that. That's the language I always use. Like when I was 11, decided I want to make comics, is that I didn't have the words, but the feeling, if I were to like reflect upon it and call it back with, 30 odd years later, is I would say that I was thinking, whatever just happened to me now, that's what I want to do for other people the rest of my life. So
I love it. It's the feeling of that's what I want to do collection or what have you.
Yeah.
There's always a copy edit opportunity in titling every practice, but I think we're there. I think we have a pretty strong concept that can be fun, and it's so nourishing too to go back and revisit. Because I mean, I know typically for me, I re-feel pretty great about the stuff that felt so moving and motivating and inspiring.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, we got our practice to do. So we'll see everybody in 2 weeks when we show up to share what we got. Anything else to say before we go?
No, I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes. This will be fun. I'm guessing mine's going to be quite a hodgepodge of audio and video.
Oh, cool.
I'm unfortunately inspired by too many things.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I feel like I'm considerably more one-noted than you when it comes to this. I think my job's gonna be a bit easier this time around. So yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Rob.
Well, thank you, Jerzy. I hope you're not gonna be that one-noted. I'm so curious to see what we end up doing here. All right.
Roll. So let's try and remember that. Let's try to make our influence art, the art that reminds us why we do what we do. And remember that 2 minutes is a findable amount of time. Play along with our chosen practice or hack it, make it your own. How can you take this thinking exercise and apply it to some kind of practice for yourself? And then, choose your practice, set a timer, 2 minutes, and comment and share in the Lean Into Art Discord, which you can find at leanintoart.com/Discord. Share your work and your reflections in the Challenges Quests channel. And we'll be back with another 2-minute practice in 2 weeks. Anything else left to say?
No. I've been Rob Stenzinger of leanintoart.com and leanintoart.com/2-minute practice.
And I've been Jerzy Trost of leanintoart.com/2-minute practice. Okay, bye.